it looks like we're here. So we have Kate here against CI. So I anticipate the combo deck. I don't know what else you play out of CI these days, if anything.
I would definitely expect a 7-point shutdown combo. I've heard rumors of some sort of kill CIs going around in the run-up to Worlds, but I don't think those actually really, like, made it to the top of the pile.
So now I know a lot of people who watch Worlds. Dan was running the CI list yesterday, and I know one of the small changes he made, most CIs tend to run vanilla. They just want, that gear check. But Dan was running the paper mill or paper wall into the Mother Goddess combo.
Yeah, it's a really interesting ice sweep because you effectively, you make them choose. They can break the paper wall, in which case your Mother Goddess goes back to being unbreakable unless you have an AI, or they can just bounce off both your servers, right? Like, you can effectively make one of your servers impenetrable.
Right.
Unless they have something like Faust or Atman.
Right. And I know, compared to what we saw at the beginning of the year, AI breakers weren't as, consistently run in most of these decks nowadays. A lot of the Anarch lists went to more standard breaker seat with, NRE and Ice Carver, data suckers. But, it wasn't just Faust everywhere like we used to see.
Now,
and it looks like, Nadim got to see the Mother Goddess, so I think he has an idea of what this might possibly be as far as, what type of ice suite it's going to be.
This is a very interesting matchup, I think. Like, the Kate deck has decisions to make. Against CI, you always want to run early, because if you can score those early points, it puts you in a good position later if you ever need to just go in and try and win the game before they combo. But this Kate deck, I played against him in the Swiss of Worlds yesterday, and if he's running the same list, there is a lot of hate in here that will hit CI hard.
Interesting. Okay.
But if it's the same list, then I believe he'll have Clot and Sacrificial Construct, which is, that's tough to get through.
That's very, very difficult. I assume he's just running the one SACCon. That seems to be the more standard.
Yeah, that would be standard, definitely.
So, but yeah, I agree with you. I think the early pressure before he gets to, that key moment where he can run, he gets, what is it, 12 credits, I believe, is the number you need. Is it 13?
It's 11.
11 credits?
Lets you do the sort of standard combo.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Getting those early agenda scores really helps, give you that opportunity to win. Because otherwise, I think, Anarch has the better matchup, obviously, especially if you're running the Shard. But for Kate, once you kind of get to that snowballed point, it's really difficult to really kind of win from there. Because you don't get the deep medium digs that Anarch get.
Yeah, that's the thing. Criminal and Anarchs, I think, against CI, you're all about that early pressure. You just want to get as close to winning as possible before they manage to get into a position where they're threatening to combo. With Shapers, you can definitely play a slower game where you actually put down enough hate that their combo becomes more difficult. That's, that's a little edge you gain, and in that edge, you go and dig R&D with an RDI, you see some cards, you hopefully see an agenda. They maybe draw up, get some more money, you install another hate card, and then you do the same thing.
Right. Now, this is kind of interesting. I assume Nadim anticipates CI being on the combo, so I don't know that necessarily putting out the rabbit holes are going to be all that useful for him. I mean, yes, Nexus is part of this deck, I assume, but that's still a lot of setup instead of trying to find your breakers just to get that early pressure in this game.
Because Nexus is an answer to Mother Goddess, of course, but at the same time, if this list has Atman in it, that might actually just be a much cheaper answer that doesn't require nearly as much setup.
Right, absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see where Nadim goes with this. Obviously, I think, you really have to aggressively draw to be able to put that pressure on. You can't stick to your normal game plan of playing the setup, getting your Nexus down, and praying for the long game. Because against CI, obviously, once they get to a point, it's just, you can't do that anymore. So looks like we do see a few agendas in John's hand. I think I saw 2 flash through as he was sorting. Oh, my apologies. We'll see if so, I mean, we see an R&D interface, which is good. You definitely want that early multi-axe as quickly as possible. Yeah.
Now, Nadim's got a Beth installed, and that is going to be just constantly giving clicks, I think. The CI deck doesn't ever really want to drop below, 15 credits. Like, you just want to have as much money as possible. More money and more cards just makes the combo easier and easier and lets you win through hate cards.
Absolutely. So John, I mean, a lot of John's plays are pretty standard. It's just money up, draw cards, right? You're just looking for the right combination of pieces so you can go off.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is just, I mean, it's very solitaire style.
Yeah, and it's fairly linear as well. There's not many decision points until you reach a point where it's time to combo. And even then, if you're experienced with the deck, it's normally about just calculating if you've got it. And if you do, you win. And if you don't, you draw some more cards, gain some more money.
Yep, exactly. So, outside of Nadim really running, I don't think we're going to see a lot of interaction in this game. You know, it's kind of the hard part about, you know, watching these kind of games is, you know, there's really not a whole lot of interaction between both of these players that's going to be happening. You know, eventually, like we said, you know, you just kind of get to a point where, you know, it's going to be like, you know, I can't really run, right?
Yeah.
If I don't win here, it's just game over.
Well, of course, the end game for the CI deck is that you draw your entire deck, and then you can combo without playing a power shutdown.
Yep.
Now, that's probably quite a long time away still, but that is the problem, that you cannot just sit there as the runner and let them do whatever they want, because eventually they reach a point where they just draw. That's their whole turn. Getting cards. Ooh, this is interesting.
And a lot of times I actually see this where if they're not running and they have the combo in hand, they just put something down to force them to run, you know, to get the shutdown combo going.
Yeah, like this is definitely a point where there's some interesting decisions to be made here. Like, you can let them have the agenda, but that is very terrible as well, because again, that makes that combo that much easier, and it means that when you do eventually decide it's time to run, they probably win the game.
Yep. And then of course the decision now is, you know, if I run this, yes, I can steal it, but you know, they're on the credits that they need. Are they just going to win if I do this?
And we've got a single clone chip there. So if he's able to SMC in and then steal it, he still wants to be able to get clocked. That's the problem, is being able to break whatever ice that is. If I wanted to guess, I'd say it's Mother Goddess, because that's the best ice you can have for this situation. And, you know, then if that uses up your SMC, then you aren't able to then clock on the following turn when they try and combo.
Right, and it looks like he does have a second clone chip in hand. So really, if he can just get that SMC to be able to apply the pressure on that server, to be able to, you know, clot, you know, multiple times here, that'll really help him kind of slow John, or at least make him really think about what he wants to do before he can go off.
Yeah.
So I think he's really trying to decide if he, you know, can he afford to really dig? He doesn't really want to let this agenda go, but at the same time, obviously, he can't run it right now, so he's got to draw. And if he were to draw into an SMC, you know, running on third or fourth click isn't going to really do what you need it to do. So
Nadim also might run into one of the awkward problems with the Nexus Cape style decks, which is if you don't have your console, then memory is actually very short. That Magnum Opus is 2 memory, and SMC is another 2. So if you ever want to have Opus and SMC in play, you can't have anything else until you have a console.
Right, absolutely. So I think he's just really kind of deciding his options here right now, and I know he really doesn't get a whole lot of things that he can do. It's just, you know, he's really, you know, CI really got the draw going early. You know, they got the money. They just, you know, there was no clicking for credits or drawing for cards. It was just, you know, so quickly, you know, snowballed into that critical mass of credits that they need.
Yeah, I would say this is definitely a sign that John's draw was very strong. Like, I think he hit his combo early, got enough money cards that he can just go for this play here, scoring the agenda. And this is, you know, one of the strengths of the deck is if you draw insane hands, you're able to put pressure on the runner and they lose either way.
Right. So let's see, you know, now obviously, you know, as we talked about, so it looks like he's going to run it. He's going to see, I believe that's some other goddess. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's not looking good for him. So John easily being able to score this out, which makes, you know, his day so much easier, of course.
Yeah. And now that is a run. Like.
Yep. That's all he needs. And he has a shutdown in hand. He has the accelerated diagnostic in hand. So.
Does he have Artist Colony for Nadim here? That's actually. That makes things interesting.
Yep, I don't see Jackson either in there.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe he's just trying to rush behind this Mother Goddess.
I think that's
that Fansite Artist Colony is very important as well. Again, it's just another way of getting Clot, of getting SatCon, of getting another clone chip if he needs it.
Yep, so looks like John's going to try, and I'm guessing this is probably an efficiency committee, unless he's trying to just.
The fact that he single advanced it says to me either efficiency committee or a Vitruvius. You might just want that counter on there. It can help you out.
Yep. So he's gonna score this out and see what it is, and it is the efficiency committee. Yep. So I mean that's a huge piece to have in the shutdown.
Definitely.
I mean that just makes the deck so much easier having essentially those 3 extra clicks. It allows you to install a Jackson, you know, without needing one on the board in order to go off.
And now you also just potentially have the option of fast advancing out the rest of your agendas, even if they don't let you do the combo.
Yep.
Mother Goddess and R&D. He's done with that remote for the rest of the game.
Yep. So, so this is, I mean, this is kind of the new thing that's come out of the CI decks is really the Mother Goddess play, and I mean, it does. I mean, it basically shuts off an entire server.
Yeah, and it's there's the SatCon. It's a very interesting choice, and I think it shows that Faust has definitely dropped out of the meta a lot. That's what this is a good reaction to. If everybody was still playing, double fork decks, you would not see Mother Goddess, I don't think, because it's not that good against them. They just Faust through it. But everyone is on these wizard decks with normal breakers, Andy decks, etc. And that is very strong against those.
I mean, most Shaper decks are usually still trying to pack an Atman just as kind of a backup, just in case emergency. But obviously, as we saw with Worlds, Shaper just it's not that commonly played anymore.
Yeah.
So it looks like, John just running it up here. And, I think really what he's trying to look for, I think he just needs that Jackson to really kind of finish this out.
Yeah, I think he's missing Jackson in that very quick flick through the hand. I didn't see a yellow card. So.
So I think once he gets there, then I think this game is, he can wrap it up. And at this point, like you said, I think, he's really, Edam's really got to kind of, he needs that SMC. He said, as you said, he has the sack clot, or a sack-on, so he can put that down. But with John really only needed to score 2 agendas now.
Yes, that is a huge difference as well. I also believe Subdeck's Virus Suite might be in hand, which helps again because it means you can install it when you play the shipment from Mirror Morph at the start of a combo, and then potentially use it more than once, which is what you might need to do against this kind of thing. Although with Clone Chip, it gets so much more difficult.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is, obviously, you can easily just advance everything that you need to, then play the Virus Suite. They'll sack on it, then you just replay the Virus Suite, and then they can't Clone Chip it back in because you don't have another opportunity.
We have another interesting piece of ice here. That's an Excalibur.
Well, this is definitely not one that you see. I don't think I've ever seen Excalibur played in a CI deck before.
No, but again, it helps out because obviously it's not giving the Mother Goddess any extra subtypes, so it's still not breakable by normal breakers. And then if you put it on HQ, that means you're only getting 1 poke every time. That's and that's huge because a lot of the time against CI, the correct thing to do is to poke HQ as many times as possible. Hope you hit their Jackson, hope you hit their agendas, as Nadim did just manage to do.
So that's I mean, considering his hand, I think he only had 2 agendas in his hand. That's a really huge pull.
Yeah. It does get surprisingly dense in there, especially when you start playing the Operation Economy cards.
Sure.
And, you empty out your hedge funds, and then suddenly, actually, your hand looks a bit more dangerous. So,
so again, as we mentioned, I think John at this point, all he's really looking to do is just draw as much as humanly possible. I mean, he's sitting on 16 credits, so the hand size really isn't going to be a concern for him right now. And obviously, with shutdown decks, there's certain things you just don't need anyways.
Yeah. Now, of course, having that efficiency scored is huge, and the amount of options it gives to John is actually incredible, because those counters, you can actually use them to purge and then use CVS, and that gets through SACCON and Clot and lets you score another agenda. Another thing he could potentially do, if he draws an Archive Memories and doesn't have the Jackson still, take some counters off it, get the clicks, power shutdown, archive back the Jackson.
So, looks like John's, a little struggling to get that Jackson. I mean, he's pretty deep into his deck now, and obviously all decks run 3, so the fact that he hasn't found a single one yet is really tough.
Yeah, I suppose that's the one piece he was missing from that. What looked like a very strong early draw still. And rushing out an agenda of CI is so good for the corp.
So I think if you're Needham, I think at this point maybe you don't put him on. I mean, you've run a couple times now. He hasn't pulled off the combo. Maybe you take another poke at HQ.
Yeah, I think it's still safe to run HQ here, or maybe he wants to get the Outman here. Now, he wants to get SMC. Interesting choice to use a fan site to get an SMC.
Instead of using it
you
for
would expect to just get the program, but I guess he just wants it on board for some reason.
Yeah, that is kind of, I mean, you could basically choose whatever it is that you wanted. So if you wanted, say, an Admin at 3 to be able to run hand, or an Admin 4 to run R&D, you don't need the SMC to do that.
I would argue this is actually maybe not a great, he's using, that seems like a very strange play to me.
Yeah, especially if he's popping right away. Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't just fan sight for what you need. I suppose it gives you the SMC and the bin so that you can Clone Chip it to get the clot later.
Yeah.
I guess it's probably what he's looking at here. So curious what he sets it at.
Looks like he's setting it to 4, so he's going to be able to get into R&D.
Yep.
But again, you got to make the choice, right? Which server do you want to hit?
Right, and I think R&D is fine because you're seeing 2 cards at a time.
With the interface, I think it's probably correct.
And if you put him on not Jackson yet, I mean, that gives you the opportunity to really trash it out of R&D.
Locking out the Jacksons.
Yep. So, and you're only spending 1 credit, so it's not even remotely taxing. So you can just like it all day, essentially.
When we have the AO Breaker, then Mother Goddess does look a lot weaker, certainly.
Yep, absolutely. So, probably going to go right in on R&D here. Yep.
And 8 credits.
Yep, looks like they're just mathing out, make sure the math is right. Yeah, I mean, it should be
I
fine.
think maybe John is confused about the fact that he got the SMC first.
Yep. Yeah, I still, like I said, it's probably just he wants the SMC in there so that he can clinch about the cloud later.
Yeah.
That way he gets the option to do both. So, yep, looks like we're running. Got the second RD interface down, so that's really, really big.
There's the Jackson.
So there's the Jackson, yeah.
See, that's
oh, so we see a reuse off the top, and I don't know, we didn't get to see the second card. But now he's really kind of in the driver's seat, right?
Yeah.
I mean, trashing the Jackson means when he shuts down, he can always put it back into his deck, but...
And with the Magnum Opus, he's never going to go low enough on credits, but Clot isn't a threat.
Right.
Although reinstalling Clot eventually starts to tax him out, but 5 credits is plenty, right? He's got 2 clone chips, and he's got the ability to forfeit. That's 3 Clot installs if he needs them.
I mean, you know, usually you're only running RD once, maybe twice if you steal an agenda, try to see an extra card. So, I mean, odds are you're just, you know, opening up again anyways.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you probably dropped a paper wall out in front there just
to have another gear check. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Oh, he's getting back with Jackson. Yeah.
Oh, yep, there we go. Yep. So now he's really in a precarious position because he knows if he runs, you know, he's going to be able to fire the combo.
And now having that Atman on 4 means that Excalibur's still live, so he's only got 1 shot to hit the Jackson out of hand if he wants to try and do that.
Yep. So, I mean, knowing that that's obviously probably, you know, some kind of standard ice, you're probably not going to get an RD at this point. You just take I mean, you only get 1 shot. I mean, this is a tough position here.
I suppose you take credits and sort of hope.
I mean, I suppose you could do something crazy like install something over your Atman, reinstall Atman at 3 to give yourself, you know, 3 shots at it, I suppose, is something you could look at doing. So it looks like, no, he's just going for it.
I mean, he can, of course, just get back the SMC, but again, he's over memory if he does that. So does he want, I don't know if he wants to trash his Opus at this point in the game. He still needs the credits.
Right. So, you know, I think if you're John, I mean, I guess it really depends on what this ice is, but I can't imagine there's anything that's worth more than 1. Oh, looks like we forgot to discard. Or is he just setting aside combo?
He might just be figuring out if he can combo, and that might affect his res decisions, of course.
Sure. Just trying to do the math on how much he needs.
Numbers of credits are quite important. He's down to 14 currently, which is interesting because that would be enough for standard combo. Plus 1 CVS res, because you got 11 credits and then 3. I mean, you don't need to do the full combo right now because you're already at 2 points and you have the FCOM scored already, but like he's definitely thinking about how many times he's potentially going to have to fire a CVS to win this game, I think.
Right. I mean,
it's also possible that he is just over cards. I'm not sure. It doesn't look like he's over 14 to me.
I mean, and if he really needs to, he has the reuse in hand so that he can, you know, discard a bunch of his hand to get the money that he needs anyways for the click.
Playing reuse from hand is quite awkward, but well, I mean, as a double, it's just awkward.
Right, right.
That's a bit of a problem with the CI deck is these doubles, but you never really want to play from hand.
So it looks like nothing in an RD. So I think we'll probably see John go off here this next turn. I think you take a poke at HQ. You might as well.
Yeah,
you know, you don't have anything to lose.
1 run if you hit the Jackson, then you probably delayed the combo again.
Yep.
Fire.
Yes. Yes. All right, so, I mean, 1 in 14. It's not the greatest opportunity here. But, I mean, you know, anything's possible in this game.
Yeah. You got to play to your outs. That's the thing.
Absolutely. So, here we go. All right, you know, I can imagine this is the game right here, one way or the other. So...
I don't really know how he's randomizing this.
I have no idea.
Just keep rolling the die until you have a good feeling about the card, I think, is the correct strategy with CI. That's an
agenda, but...
I mean... I don't think he really needs an extra Artist Colony card here. I think just having 1 agenda is enough to stop the combo.
Yep. So John...
Draws a Biotic.
Thinking now. So it looks like he, you know, I mean, he seems to have the agendas in hand.
And he's definitely got that Jackson.
Yep. So, I'm not sure what he's thinking about.
Yeah. Like I said, the fact that he can potentially install that CBS from his hand on his first shipment from Mirror Wolf and then use the efficiency committee clicks to purge in extra time.
Yep.
Means that I think that Clot and SatCon is beatable in this situation. Oh, looks
Yep.
like he's
so
going
it looks
for
like
it.
here he's going to go. So
We're
hold our breath and
about to
hopefully
watch some combos.
All right, so he's going up to 6 clicks, obviously
Yep.
taking the efficiency committee. So he's just marking everything out to make it easy. So
it should be 6.
Should be 6.
That's
Yeah, I'm not sure he's 7.
unless he's thinking of playing. He might be counting,
Oh, he's
but including the biotic.
right.
That would be my guess. Is
Yep.
that he's
Just make sure he's mathing it correctly.
I played a fair amount of CI, and every time I combo off, I always do it in my head before I do it.
Sure. Yep. No, I mean it's one of those things that, you know, especially in, you know, competitive nature, if you do it wrong, I mean, that's kind of it. So you really got to make sure, you know, when you watch these guys do it, I mean, they take, you know, a good 5-10 minutes just to make sure that they have everything mathed out properly. So, yep, so here we go.
Even players like, you know, world champions like Dan Dargenio can mess up CI combos.
Oh.
It does happen.
Yep,
Like,
yep. I know even in the finals, I think he messed up at least once in one of his games. So, I mean, a lot of times when you're in that pressure position, you know, if you just, you know, one number wrong and suddenly you realize that you don't quite have it.
Yeah.
And you can't put it back at that point. Yep. So he's just explaining everything out here. I mean, that's the biggest thing with these combos. You really got to make sure that you're very succinct and you're explaining everything as you're doing it, so there's no question.
That shipment from Emerald?
Yep.
Yep.
So I assume we'll see agenda, and
I do think that CVS comes down. Yep.
Yep. Absolutely. And then
now you need a Jackson and an agenda here.
Yep.
Right. That would be. He's got Warmer Jackson.
Yep. There's a Jackson and then the food.
Food over 3-2. Doesn't really matter which one.
So there's.
I briefly picked for food.
Thinking.
All right. Sure. So now, what he wants to do is do that first pile, and I'm not sure if he potentially does still need an extra efficiency committee score in the middle of this combo to let him score at the 5-3.
5-3, right.
There's the clock though.
Yep. As expected.
Now you don't do the double purge until you're ready to score.
Right.
Like
you want all of it out there before, because otherwise, if you purge it now, they can clutch up one in the middle of your run.
Yeah, exactly.
So yep, there goes the Jackson.
And yeah, so the ideal situation for John is to get both agendas all the way up to scoring and then purge. I'm not sure if he can do it from this setup, but it's also potentially possible for him to do it twice by getting the CVS back with interns.
Right. So right now he's down to 12 credits, so he's still fine money. So he's still trying to figure out, make sure he's getting it right. So just kind of have to hold our breaths here. You know, this is the hard part about playing CI, especially in, you know, such a high pace, you know, in a very pressure situation. Is it's really easy, like you mentioned, to make a simple mistake.
When I've played CI and I've been on stream or recorded, that is always like as well. There's the extra pressure. You're like, man, if I mess this up, I'm going to look like an idiot.
It's immortalized forever, yeah. So, and then again, as the runner, you're just kind of sitting here waiting and crossing your fingers. Hopefully he makes a mistake. So he's still trying to figure it out
Still
here.
figuring out that third card, it looks like.
Yep.
Now, looking at his hand, looks like there's 2 accelerator diagnostics in it, at least.
Yep, that's what it looks like. So we've got interns. Nope. So there was an interns and a shipment, but it looks like
he's going to have to intern to get another Jackson Howard. That's certain to me. He might want either Biotic or Subliminal to gain back some extra clicks.
Right.
And then other options include, well, I don't know if he'll have a second interns, which means that
I don't think he does.
Getting another agenda out at the same time as the Jackson, probably not possible, unless he plays a shim from Miramorph and solves it from hand, of course.
Right.
So that would work.
So it looks like he does have a shipment in hand, so that's always an option. So a Biotic.
There's other options here. Potentially you could Reclamation Order, get back both Jackson Howards, and then ship from Miramorph, install both Jacksons and an agenda from your hand.
Right. Yep.
And that effectively saves your card in the piles.
Yep. So it looked like he pulled out a Biotic, a Subliminal, and interns, I think was the other card.
That seems like a sensible set of piles.
Yep, so there's the interns. Looking for the Jackson, I believe.
And again, these gaining clicks is so important here because of this purge ability, getting rid of the clock through the sacrificial construct.
Yep. So he's back up to 6 clicks at this point.
So what I expect,
and don't forget the dollar. The dollar might be important.
Might be important as well.
Yep.
Sometimes very relevant.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of times when these happen, I mean, you're using all of your resources.
Especially when you're talking about Subdeck's Virus Suite as well. Like, the dollars are definitely going to matter.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's not cheap.
Yeah. So now it's interesting. I'm not sure if he's going to try and score his 3rd efficiency committee because there is still one available. And the thing about that is if you try and do it that way, if he doesn't stop you scoring it and just if he lets you kill the claw on the first purge, then you score the efficiency committee and then you definitely can purge through the second.
Right. Yep. With no issues.
It looks like we're going for a score though.
Yep. So we got.
This might just be a 3-2.
I think so. Yeah. I have to imagine. Yep. So there it goes. So I have to imagine knowing. I mean, he's at 6 clicks. All he needs is 3.
Huh?
If he can do this in 3 clicks, he doesn't have to worry about it because then he can just purge.
Yeah.
So here's the advance.
Shipment and then Kaguya putting 1 on each. Right.
And then.
So. Yep. Has he got another? Okay.
Yep, there we go. Oh, there it is. Yep.
Right, so, and then he can purge using his remaining clicks.
Yep. So he's down to, I think he's down to 4 clicks, yep.
Yep, so you spend 3 clicks to purge. If they use SatCon, you use the CVS.
Yep.
If they don't, you win the game anyway.
Yep.
So better do it in the right order.
Yep. And for those that don't know, you have to have them at the full scoring position because it doesn't give them an opportunity to be able to clump it back in.
I think might have done that wrong, but
I think
I'm not sure if Nadim knows. Because if Nadim uses sacrificial construct here, then John can't score his agendas, and Nadim can, I might be wrong about this, but I'm trying to figure out how this dynamic works. I can archive it back. Right, okay.
Yep.
I'll use the
He's going to make him do it anyways.
Yeah,
okay, there we go.
Right, there we go.
Yep, so there's CI 7, I know a lot of people, for a lot of people it's a great challenge deck to play, it's very, involved as far as having to memorize all these different options because there's so many ways you can lose. There's so many cards out there that can really kind of mess you up. So being able to understand all of your routes and all these situations is not an easy thing to do.
I know CI can be quite a divisive deck for some people, like the solitaire nature of it. But for me, it's a very interesting challenge learning to play that deck and figuring out your options and how to win through all these different combinations of hate cards. Like, it's possible to just memorize it, but I think it's very difficult to memorize all the possible combinations of hate cards somebody can have.
There's
a lot of the time, you're figuring it out on the fly, and that is actually a very interesting.
I mean, that's a difficult skill for a lot for most people to master.
Exactly.
Yep.